Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, I'm with John from Incantation. Hey,
Hey,
John.
what's
Hi,
up?
Mike. How's it going?
Good, good. Yeah,
Good.
just happy to be here.
Oh, awesome. Are you in Pennsylvania?
No, actually, I moved to North Carolina about a year ago now.
Oh, really?
Wanted to go down south a little bit, just got sick of being in the cold.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Austin, and I'm sick of tired of being in the hot.
Yeah, well, North Carolina is like in between a little bit. It's not as brutal, I think. I don't think it's as brutal as Austin, but it's definitely a lot warmer here, but I really like it in the winter time. I It's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Uh, man, so I'm like super excited to get to talk to you. I have a bunch of questions.
Okay,
Uh,
let's
I don't
go.
even know
Put it
where to
down.
start, man. I was listening to the new record, and I know that uh, you guys still do like a lot of kind of old school stuff, and I was
Yeah.
wondering, um, like, because you guys have been consistent for your whole career, and I was wondering, like, how do you maintain that consistency where there's always like new innovations, like new amps, new this, and people start doing this with music. And how do you keep your sound without kind of going all over the place?
Part of it is I'm a stubborn bastard, so I want to keep things, the way I like doing them. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that, speaking for myself, I really love what I do, so it's really easy to do it. It's like
Yeah,
I just a lot of musicians get really nervous when times change or trends change, because sadly, a lot of people get into playing music for like a popularity contest or something. They want to be big or whatever. And with us, it's never been about that. I mean, we started with a concept of just telling the world to fuck off. We want to play death metal the way we want to do it, and we don't give a crap about the trends or anything. So we've always had that kind of like a punk rock attitude about it, where it's just like everyone could piss off, and if people don't like what we do, it's like nothing we could do about it. If they're going to be posers, that's their problem. But we're
yeah,
going to stay true, and we're going to do what we want to do. But yeah, a lot of musicians, they just times change and they get nervous, and they start adding different things to their music, and then like 10 years later, when the trend comes around again, all of a sudden they're back to playing the old school style or whatever. But for us,
yeah,
it's like, why, we're a death metal band. We have we're metal when it comes down to it, and metal's not supposed to be trendy. It's not supposed to just follow everything that happens. I mean, just because death metal isn't the flavor of the month, a certain segment of our history, are we supposed to stop playing death metal? Hell no. That's just retarded. It's like
yeah,
I can't see. You know, I have integrity in the work that we do as a band, and it's like, the time period at which it happens, the song or music happens is irrelevant. It doesn't matter when it happens. It's just the fact that we just do what we want to do and keep moving forward, and it's kind of cool because now it's like the trends actually are going more towards our way
yeah,
without us having to say, okay, yeah, now we like playing old school death metal again, because there's always trends and stuff, and screw that stuff. I mean, metal is supposed to be anti-trend. You're supposed to be
yeah,
It's supposed to be music from the heart. Once business gets involved in it too much, people start, get nervous, or they get a taste of a little bit of success, and they start doing it for the success aspect of it. And it's like, I don't really give a crap about the success. I mean, it's nice that people like it. It's nice that people might use this as an influence or something like that. But, you know, I would be doing it either way. If it was popular or not, I'd still be writing music because I love writing music. It goes for the rest of the guys in the band that we have now too. I mean, we all do it because we love doing it. Not It's not a popularity contest.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, you know, like the record sounds super tight, right? But that's kind of one of the things with the trends is that everybody has gone into this super robotic sound, and they took what used to be death metal, and and there's a bunch of different subgenres, right? But basically, everything started kind of turning into a robotic thing. Uh,
I
so
agree.
how do you walk that line where your stuff is still really tight, but not going like so? How do you figure out how to not go too
Negotiate.
far?
You're trying to say negotiate because I
Yeah,
know what you're saying. I've answered this in other interviews too because it, in my opinion, it was a real issue in the death metal scene. It started happening around the late 90s and early 2000s where digital recording started becoming super popular and analog was just going away. And a lot of bands took it too far where they go in there and just over tighten everything up and just sterilize it and put everything the grids and all this kind of stuff. And it took away all the actual feeling that the players themselves actually have. And it's like, you know, when we're trying to do an album, we want to have our personality on the album. It's not, we don't want to just put out just a death metal album. We want to put out our death metal album. So our death
yeah,
metal album has to sound like us as musicians. And, you want to get the songs as tight as possible, but nothing on this album was recorded to like any kind of click tracks or any kind of grid or anything like that. I mean, we want to have the let's say imperfections of our playings in there to some extent. You want to fix things, obviously. That are if you play something like crap, you want to fix it, but sometimes the little subtleties in the playing that is not so traditional or not quite on is part of what makes the music original and great. I mean, I'm old enough where I kind of grew up listening to 70s rock and early heavy metal in the 80s and stuff. And that stuff was far from perfect, but it had so much personality. And it's some of the best music in history was made at that time before there was, a superhuman, everyone could play like a superhuman because of computers. I mean, I started noticing it in the late 90s where bands were doing, they were recording, at like Mars Sound and some other studios where they would be putting everything, locking it to a grid. And I would listen to it. And at first I was like, holy crap, these players are just phenomenal. Then I watch them play live and it's like, huh? Like
yeah,
that drummer can't play that beat or I can't play that fast or whatever. I mean, but
yeah,
it's really sad. There's a younger generation of death metal musicians that they just go in the studio and they just do some basic tracks and just tell the engineer, okay, match it up to the grid at this BPM and I'm out of here. I'm going to lunch or something, And
yeah,
to me, that's just ridiculous. I mean, we want to play our songs, we want to have a feeling like we're actually playing either them live or we're playing at a rehearsal where, yeah, I mean, we don't match up like our tempos perfect. We don't say, okay, well, the first time we went around, we played it at this tempo and we're going to match it to that tempo. If you would look at, I mean, we do record digitally just because it's only realistic way to do it now. That's reasonable
yeah,
financially. But if you looked at like, if people try to cut it up, like people trying to do edits and stuff or cutting up and giving the tempo changes and the tempo timings. It's like they're all over the place. It's like you look at it, you just think we're on crack or something like that. But you listen back to it and it sounds normal. It sounds like
yeah,
I mean, we've had a situation where we've went into the studio and somebody tried editing our stuff too much, and we listen back to it and be like, "This doesn't sound right. Like
yeah,
everything sounds wrong." So we
yeah,
letting it be like you can't be scared of um, you know, having especially the drums just be the freaking drums that, because you're playing live and it sounds good live on album, it sounds good. I mean, all the stuff I grew up listening to, especially influences like early Possessed, Necrophagia, early Death, whatever. None of that stuff was done to a grid, and it's amazing stuff. So why should we why should we change the way we do things to that extent? You know, I mean, of course, I mean, not to say we don't fix up flubs or problems is a lie. Of course we do, but we don't go and make sure everything is so sterile that it's you know, it sounds like just a machine playing. I mean, that was a dilemma. I mean, there's a lot of great technical and tight death metal bands out there that could actually play, but there's also hundreds of them that can't play, that just, you know, fake everything on their album, and then you watch them live and just a pile of slop, you know?
Yeah.
And it probably
So
sounds better live because I like when bands sound like slop more than when they sound over tight sometimes.
yeah. Uh,
I, I saw
so
that rough edge to it. I like that rough edge to metal.
yeah, and so I was thinking like even like so what I noticed that came across so I grew up listening to metal in the 80s, right?
Okay.
So as soon as I put on your record, I'm hearing all these tones and I'm just like it takes me back, right? So I'm thinking, do you guys like how strict are you on, let's say, like gear and equipment? Like do you stick to like certain amps and certain drums, that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, I don't. I am kind of stubborn. I'm stubborn on my sound to an extent, you know, but I've also learned that I have to work with the people that are either doing sound for us live or working with engineers and do things the way they want things done so it could come out properly. So I've also learned over the years to, yeah, have give and take for people that I trust that are going to do the right thing. But you know, I have been you know, dabbling in some, you know, newer equipment over the years. I mean, I try to be open minded, and if something, you know, I play something and it sounds good, that okay, that this might be a good thing to try out and use or something. Like, for example, we played the what was it, the New England Hardcore Metal Fest, and they were sponsored by Omega Cabinets, and you know, was it Mike from Omega told me, oh, just, you know, I want you to really try out the cabs. I think it's going to sound great with your sound, you know. And I plugged it in and played the show, and I couldn't believe how great it handled the, especially the low end cut, because that's a really tough thing for a band like us that plays with a lot of low end in our sound. Sometimes the cut just doesn't cut through properly, so I had to like realize, okay, that maybe this is a better option, you know, because technology is good if it's used in the proper way, you know, if it's going to help,
Yeah.
it's going to help define it. So, I mean, you know, I ended up working with them and actually getting an endorsement by them, but it is something that I like using. And when I use it, it sounds freaking badass. I mean, it's really cool when, you know, we're doing sound check at a show and, you know, just the house guy is just like, holy fuck, you know,
Yeah.
that sounds heavy as fuck, you know, and I'm knowing that, you know, before I used to use a Marshall, you know, a Marshall full stack, kind of like with, what was it, Celestian, 75-watt Celestians, and it sounded good, but for some reason, just the Omegas just sounded better, so I kind of went with it. So I'm always open to, you know, what sounds good, if it's new or old or whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm kind of stubborn as far as like, you know, I really like the feel of my old BC Rich guitars. I've been using them for a while. You know, I use Kaler tremolos, which I've been using since the 80s. I never got used to using Floyd Roses. I don't hate Floyd Roses, but I never felt 100% comfortable. Like for years, I had one guitar that had a Floyd Rose, and I could never keep the damn thing in tune at all. It's like I would hit the bar, and everything would just always go out. And no matter how much I tried getting it set up at different places, just the tuning that I do, it just wasn't stable. So, you know, I was happy to get back to using Kalers again. I just said, screw it. I'm using what I used from the beginning, and it, you know, had less of a problem, you know? So yeah, I mean, new and old stuff, you know, you just kind of, you got to go with what works. I mean, you learn stuff. It's just like technology of recording with modern technology of recording. You know, if you use it and use it with the right mindset, you could really come up with good stuff. But if you use it as a crutch and just want to make things sound fake, you know, you could do that too. It's kind of like an artist. You know, artists could you could paint something that looks really badass and has personality to it, or you could just do a regular stick drawing that looks like everybody else's, you know?
Yeah. That reminds me, you were talking about BC Rich. You had like a custom Mockingbird made, right?
Yeah, that's a an SP guitar. That's my friend Scott from over here. He builds guitars, and basically he's an old BC Rich kind of dude. So he when he said he wanted to work with me on building a guitar, he knew that I was going to ask for basically, my old BC Rich Rico, like kind of like a re-version of that, and it's been really fun because I mean, I've worked with BC Rich a little bit over the years, but they've always had lots of problems with the company and just keep changing companies. And it's just been kind of a mess. It's really sad because I really love their guitars, and their old, especially their 80s models are really phenomenal. Even the 70s, anything 80s back is really badass. Some of the 90s stuff was good, but once 2000 came, it just kind of floating all over the place as far as good and bad. It's a bummer, but yeah, I built I'm still finishing up the one building with SP guitars, and it's just when I finally got it, it's pretty much close to done, and I just put it on. I was just like, fuck, this feels nice. It just
Yeah.
feels. I haven't played a guitar that felt that nice and personal since my one BC Rico I have that just plays really awesome, and he's built guitars for other great underground people. I mean, he does one for Terrence Hobbs. Basically, built him a Warlock, custom Warlock, and but he's built like guitars for Rick Ross from Death, and with the guys from Exorder, a bunch of different. I think even Possessed, he's built them for the guys in Possessed. So there's a lot of good company in that. But it doesn't matter if any guitar that I'm going to use. It doesn't matter what the name says on it. It's going to be based around the BC Rich concept because I've been playing that forever, and I just like that feeling of a guitar. A nice old neck through BC Rich to me is the my comfort. I mean, I do like old Gibsons and stuff like that also play really good too. And there's a lot of great guitars. I mean, Jackson has some really great guitars, but for me, BC Rich style is just it's my thing,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I love BC Rich shapes. I've never actually like played on like a Rico BC Rich,
Yeah.
just like stuff at pawn shops or whatever. I just really like the shapes.
Yeah, the shapes are definitely impressive, especially as a young kid. But I really the old ones are really good craftsmanship, and that's why I was really psyched to work with Scott because it's made for like exactly the feeling that I want to have on a guitar. But I mean, you know, when I was using it, when I first got my first Mockingbird, like Kerry King from Slayer was using it. A couple other people were, using Mockingbirds, and I just thought it was, awesome shape. I didn't know nothing about actually playing guitars, but after playing them for like 20 years, get on another guitar, it just sounds a little weird, because all my guitars at home are BC Riches, so it's like that's all I play. So when I play something else, it might play good, but it plays different. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah. I know that. Yeah, it'd be weird to do what you do like on a Telecaster.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that reminds me. In what was it? We played the Chili Metal Fest. This was years ago in '98. Opening for it was Death, Cannibal Corpse, us, and this band Necros from down there. It was the Metal Fest. It was a huge show, and they told us not to bring our gear down with us. So they bought these guitars, and I had this they got like a kind of a fake old Stratocaster, with a single coil pickup they gave me
Yeah.
to use for the show, and I was horrified, because like I was not prepared to play. I thought I didn't know that they were going to have any. I didn't know if they were going to have anything great, but I didn't think they were going to have something like like that. It was just like, oh man, this is tough, you know. But
Yeah.
we hunkered down and made it happen. But now, you know, we're more experienced and we know we're always bringing our guitar. I don't give a crap. You know? I don't want to get to a show and not have my guitar. It just feels too weird, you know?
Yeah. So I was going to ask, you know, now that the whole COVID thing's happening, what do you guys like planning on doing, you know, for the next like year?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping things get better that sooner, but who knows? I mean, that's something we have no control over necessarily. But well, I mean, the first thing is that we've been writing a lot of new material. Just it wasn't really because of the COVID thing. It's just that now myself, I'm naturally really inspired after we finish like mixing an album. I always just get inspired to write after that. I don't know why. It's been like that for the last 10 years, but it's like once I finish the album, it's like my mind is free to like write new songs or something like that, which is a great thing because as a songwriter, I don't really have that problem of having writer's block. I mean, I've had times when I wasn't so inspired, but in the last, especially the last 10 years, I've been extremely inspired. And the people I work with inspire me to, you know, want to do more too. So it's really awesome. So I've been doing that. And it's nice because we don't have a super busy schedule. So I do have more time to do the proper press and take care of the stuff with the new album coming out, which is nice too. Usually it's a rat race because we're trying to organize tour stuff and everything around here. But now, you know, most of the tour stuff, you know, who knows when it's going to happen. So that sucks. It is a bummer. We did have to cancel a few small runs we were supposed to do. We were supposed to do some festivals in Europe, which we had to cancel or postpone, and a couple of U.S. shows. We were actually supposed to play at Austin at that Oblivion Fest. That ended up not happening. And was it the Quebec Death Fest we were supposed to play, but that one was scheduled for next year. But anyway, as far as coming up stuff, we have a tour that we started booking before the COVID thing in November with us in Belfagor in Europe. And right now, as I just got a note that there are more dates added to the tour. So as far as now we're supposed to do it, I don't know if I know there's a ban on U.S. travelers to Europe. So I'm hoping that this doesn't happen still by November. So I don't know if that tour is going to happen or not. But as far as I know, they are moving ahead with it. So I hope that happens. But besides that, we're just working on stuff for 2021. It's difficult because a lot of people don't want to pull the trigger on anything because obviously you have no clue to how things are going to go.
Yeah.
So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm just going to utilize the time, you know, either working on music or just getting other stuff done, you know, and this whatever happens, you know.
Yeah. So would you guys ever do like streaming shows, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually that's something I did forget. We do have something in the works with was it like the Mexico Metal Fest wants to do like some kind of stream on their website. It's basically like they did one last 2 weeks ago or a week ago with Rotting Christ, and we're supposed to do something like that, and then we're going to do some other kind of like live rehearsal things or some kind of rehearsal things of like some of the new songs off the new album went after the release date and stuff like that. We are thinking about, you know, other options just to kind of get something going, you know, because, you know, obviously you have a new album, you want to do something to promote it. You know, usually we play shows, but this year, obviously, you know, even if we, you know, like say we have November thing booked in Europe, but just because we have it booked in Europe doesn't mean that it's definitely going to happen or not, because, you know, it's going to be up to Europe if they want me there or not, you know.
Yeah.
The rest of the band.
Yeah. So I have a question I've always been curious about. So you guys played death metal for 30 years. I'm wondering, when you're in the van, what kind of stuff do you listen to that would surprise everybody that you guys listen to?
We mean like just in general, or like when we travel and stuff like that?
When you're traveling, because I think it's kind of different when you're travel or when you're touring, because every night you listen to death metal, right,
Yeah.
at your show. So then your taste is kind of different on the road, or at least I would think.
Yeah,
uh,
no, it's true. I mean, I think when you're touring all the time, you know, yeah, it's not necessarily always the first choice to put out the most brutal thing possible after playing that many shows. I mean, we'll say like in the in like around the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s, between shows, I remember listening to a lot of like Manowar and Judas Priest, just stuff that was like proud to be metal kind of stuff, and
yeah,
I remember, listen to a lot of like older, hard rock stuff like Deep Purple and Rainbow and bands like that, stuff
yeah,
that, most of the stuff I listen to is kind of more, still kind of hard rock oriented. I don't listen to a lot of like other kinds of music. I know a lot of other bands that they really have way more wider palette of stuff they enjoy. But for me, it's like I really either like listening to old school heavy metal or old school rock. But I do. It is cool to listen to some. If you get like a demo or some band gives you a CD or something like that, you check it out. But I love listening to the classics like Possessed and Dark Angel and bands like that. Just older school thrash for like usually more aggressive stuff, and then more mellow stuff. Maybe like Pink Floyd or something like that is a good way to like zone out after a night of total raging.
yeah. So I was going to ask, since there is kind of more bands coming out that have more of the old school death metal stuff. What are some bands that you like that are kind of doing that?
Um, I mean, I like with new bands playing old school. I usually prefer bands that play a little bit different style than us because it's a little weird for me to enjoy listening. I mean, I don't enjoy listening to my own stuff in a musical enjoyable way because all I do is pick apart anything I hear that I do because I look for all the flaws and everything. But it's weird to me if I listen to bands that like really sound a lot like us. Sometimes it's awkward because I'm doing is picking it apart like I would pick apart my own thing. Like I can't
Yeah,
listen to it in a objective way so much. But there are a few bands that I think are actually really kind of impressed me. One is that uh, I don't know if I pronounced it right, but it's Murderfurum. They're a band from I think Washington. They just put on an album earlier this year, and our drummer Kyle played it for me, and it does have kind of a very Moral Throne Nazarene kind of sound to it, but it was done in a way that I was like, "Fuck, this is really fucking good." It just had a good vibe to it. Um, Let me think. Other new stuff. I like that Perdition Temple, which is Gene, who used to play with Angel Corpse's new band. I thought that was really good. Um, there's a new band from um, Chicago called Molder. I don't know if you got to hear them, but they're really good. Kind of old school death metal. It's really kind of catchy old school death metal. It kind of reminds me of an asphyx mixed with cyanide or something like that. Ascended Dead is a really good one. I really like that album too. Undergang too from Europe. I thought they were the Denmark. I really been digging on them. I actually watched a live stream rehearsal from, and I just liked they had a good raw old school sound. It kind of was like I don't know, kind of like a carcass, like old carcassy, like when carcass sounded more like, gargling, razor blades instead of the kind of more commercial sounding carcass. So it was
yeah,
that was really good. But yeah, I like some newer stuff is good. It's kind of nice to hear some newer death metal bands, you know, that I think kind of kicking ass and stuff. And I do really like the fact that a lot of older school death metal, a lot of younger bands are getting into it because it really kind of helps rejuvenate the scene and brings a lot more newer fans into the scene and stuff like that. So I think it's really great. I mean, not every newer death metal band I totally dig, but I do think that it's good that it's kind of going to a more I don't know, old school organic style of death metal instead of the super, like we were talking about earlier, the super technical, over tight, because
Yeah.
I'm always going to choose the rough edge style death metal over the more technical. Even though I do like Old Pestilence and bands like that, I think it's great. But I just something about when it just sounds raw and brutal and like you kind of like feel like you're picking off a scab or something. That's the kind of metal I kind of really like the most,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, it was great talking to you. And I wish you guys were playing here soon. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like the thing that I look up to you is how long you've been doing it, and you've stuck to your guns, and it's just amazing, man, that you've been able to do it for so long.
Well, I appreciate it. It's one of those things where, I mean, yeah, it's fair to say I had to make lots of sacrifices to make it happen, but at the same time, it's like it's a goal of mine to play music and to do this is something I really love doing. So it's not so difficult to like keep doing something you really like doing. It just more or less, I just don't let things discourage me or let like the times changing or and stuff like that. I don't let that stuff affect me, because there has been times where, it's easy to get down on stuff because, like say in the early to mid 2000s, like death metal was not very popular. It was more like the technical stuff, maybe Dillinger Escape Plan or something to that extent, or there was like symphonic black metal stuff was super popular. And people just had no interest in hearing old school. We don't really call it old school ourselves. It's just death metal because it's our era death metal. But you know, it, it is difficult to go through that stuff and realize that like the trend's not going your way, and maybe you're not the band's not as popular as it was at one point or whatever. But you look to it, you're like, well, I feel really strongly about this music. I feel really strong about the music that I'm doing. So it's just you just do it because I feel it's the right thing, and the rest of the band we feel like we have something to say, and you know screw it. Death metal's supposed to be rebellious. When other styles of metal in general are more popular than death metal. Like I said, I just look at it like, well, if everyone's going to be a poser, that's fine, but I'm not going to be a poser. I'm going to like the stuff I like, and everyone could piss off if they don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's inspiring, man, because we're right now everybody needs that because everybody's wondering what they're going to do with their music, right? And
Yeah.
this is hitting everybody in the same way where, what are we
Well, the
going to
thing,
do without touring?
every single band, should just do things the way they want to do it and tell the world to piss off. And if they don't like it, it's like, who gives a crap if people don't like it? It's like music should be something to enjoy playing, enjoy creating. It's an art form, so you shouldn't have to worry about what trends coming or, if this year, you're super popular, next year no one gives a crap about you. It's just like, who cares? I mean, all that stuff is vanity crap. It's like, a real artist and real songwriter, does it because it's an important thing to express in themselves. It's like, I never asked or cared for the popularity or the legacy kind of stuff. It just kind of happened because it was natural.
Yeah.
A lot of people hunger that stardom and fame too much, where they'll just sell themselves off to it. so freaking quick, you know. And for me, it's like, you know, I just won't do it because I hate it when bands that I like put out wimpy or crappy albums just to try to fit in. To me, I look at it like that's just freaking lame, and I don't want to be that. I mean, I grew up in the '80s where a lot of bands that I liked put out albums that were closer to poser metal after putting out a heavy metal album, or they went from playing aggressive thrash to sounding more like Anthrax or something like that. And I just hated it. I want, you know, I wanted my, I don't know, Creator or, you know, whatever band, you know, Destruction or whatever I listen to. I want them to stay, you know, Pleasure to Kill. You know, I want them to be pissed off. I want, you know, the reason why I liked it is because they were pissed off. I didn't like it because, you know, a band like that might change their style to, you know, fit in with whatever. I hate that shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, man, it was great talking to you, and you know, I hope I get to see you guys play in Austin soon. Or maybe I'll get to go to Europe and see you play in Europe or something.
That'd be awesome. Well,
Yeah,
definitely make sure that you come up to me when we play in Austin and say what's up, you know?
yeah, man, I totally will. Well,
Uh,
it was nice talking to you, man. I'll see you.
I'll see you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.